give me an example of something you've done specifically that breaking dramatic negotiation from the offer and like separating those two things.
Yeah. I've one that was for you actually. Remember the weight loss thing. So the scenario is this lady, right? That you wanted to go put out products for and supplements for. She's like, hey, I said, hey, who's the dream customer? And she goes, I want to work with somebody who is trying to lose weight. They once felt like they were the pretty girl. They want to go, and get more. They want to feel better about themselves, be more confident, and they just feel like life has gotten in the way. And so what we had to do is we had to identify a story that wasn't sales material. It was really getting someone to say, tell me more. And so this whole hook was like, hey, you just looked at the last picture of you at a party and asked yourself, is that what I look like? And you've known what it's like to get a man's sneaking glance. How come you don't have that anymore? And now you have this diagnosis you kind of feel secret about. And now maybe a relationship didn't turn out the way you want to. And then we basically said, what could you do to get revenge on all these things that have happened in your life only using your body? And we got getyourrevengebody.com, which is when the right person hears that, they go, tell me more. We're not walking around. It's not a sales script. It's getting someone to just go, wait, what? Just hand raising is all you're really doing. So if you think about that, like for anyone watching or listening, it's like, look at everything you're doing in marketing today and ask yourself, does this get someone to raise their hand? Or am I already asking them for money and we're not even in a relationship yet? That's really a good way to figure out what you're doing.
Yeah. How do we get their attention? How do we get them to stop? How do we get them to want more?
Yeah.
They create the desire. It's interesting because like when I'm thinking about, it's funny, I'm obviously planning Funnel Hacking Live. If you don't have your tickets yet, go to funnelhackinglive.com.
Yeah, you're crazy. Go.
But I'm also thinking like what are campaigns we did in the past? And so I always think about like what's something that's hot right now. So two years ago when NFTs were like the thing, it was like, oh, NFTs are so cool. So I was like, okay, we know this is a thing that people are talking about. Like how do I use that as a hook to get like take something they're already interested in and throw my message out there to like hook upon it and use the existing attention of what's happening, right? So we did that. So we did this whole, it was like NFTgel.com or something. And I remember we took everyone who had ever been to Funnel Hack Live in the past and we had these like bank bags. And I put a sales letter with a big old NFT. I can't remember all the stuff on it. And we shipped it to everyone who ever bought it. So it's like 17,000 people who have come to Funnel Hack Live in the past. We sent this thing in the mail. They got it. They were able to read through it. And then it was like, there's a live event coming. This is just for you guys. Nobody else. And so, 17,000 people had a private invite to this NFT event. And then we came on and we're talking about NFTs and why they're so cool. I'm like, this year's FHL, Tom Bill used to come talk about NFTs, which is amazing, show you how you use NFTs inside your funnel. But on top of that, we actually created NFTs for all of you guys who've been to Funnel Hacking Live. We made an NFT for each year, right? So, and then it was cool as I used this whole NFT angle to be able to sit there and like present to people. So it was crazy. We had a couple thousand people on this presentation and they sat there for hours. I went through and I was like, okay, those who are in 2015, how much is 2015? I'm like, this is the NFT you get if you're here for 2015. I showed them the thing and I was like, and like, let me show you guys a video. So I showed the sales video from 2015. So they saw that. I came back and I was able to pitch, go get tickets. And I showed the 2017 one and the same thing. So like for 2 hours, they're watching these little video presentations about old events. They got an NFT for being there. So they got nostalgia. Like, oh, I remember being there. I remember like I told the story behind each event. And by the time it was done, people sat there for like 90 minutes, me doing like story time with Russell. And they're all like, people are crying. Like, I remember that event. I want to go back. And all these people like rebought tickets afterwards. But it was like creating this desire and a hook and like just something different to like get out there to like re-get their attention, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the hardest thing I think nowadays is there's so much like everyone's so busy and like attention is the key, right?
Yeah.
And it's the hardest thing to get. And we're competing not just against like the people in their life, you're competing against like some of the greatest people in the world. Like we're competing against Joe Rogan, the UFC, NFL, NBA. Like everyone's fighting for the same eyeballs every second on each other's phones, right? Like that's who we're competing against. Everybody else. It's like, how do you create something that's already got their interest and you're grabbing those people and then bringing it back in?
I was thinking, and I was thinking about this a while ago. I was like, so what really, if attention is the goal, and there's all these ways to get attention, like what really is the precursor, like the leading indicator to attention? And it's really noise, like we look at the origin of sound and that's true even on a phone or whatever. Like, and you can make noise. I think the problem is that when people hear marketing and they hear the word noise, they think annoying, but you can make positive noise. You can make things that people are excited about.
Music is noise.
Yeah, music is right. And it reminds me of do you remember when we did, this is a long time. You remember the 24-hour funnel build that we did?
Yeah.
Where we built like 4 different companies' funnels in one day?
Because I was like, I had just watched like every 24 hour or from the TV show 24. I'm like, we should do that. That was That was a fun, insane
crazy.
night. Do you remember so Brandon, you guys got to see him, he's behind the camera. He was there filming and editing, and like by like 4 a.m. he was
So
laughing
tired.
uncontrollably because he was so tired and we couldn't stop. I forgot about that.
Remember that?
100%.
We should do that again. But that's
We should relaunch that episode, like just to show everybody the
That'd be
chaos
fun.
that came from that. That's actually really fun.
Well, I think that's like I think where people sometimes when they hear dramatic demonstration, they get a little bit hung up too, is they hear the word dramatic. And they're like, I got to do the equivalent of bringing a celebrity from Europe, you know? I got to go or whatever. But it can just be doing what you do in a really unique way.
Yeah.
You know?
Just
like
something
building for 24 hours.
Yeah, it's something interesting. It's like, how do you do something that's, doing, like we just built funnels for 24 hours or.
And then we went to the movie theater and launched the episode like a few
hours later.
Remember that?
Like, go and take a nap real quick and then come back and watch it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That was so much fun.
That was crazy.
We did a lot of crazy stuff back in the day.
Yeah, we did.
Add some more like chaos back into our lives.
Too civilized.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I was thinking about another recent dramatic demonstration we did, and you know about this one, but was with Dan Kennedy, right? Because again, me and you've been talking about so much. So every time we would have a new like offer we're trying to launch, my next question is like, what's the dramatic demonstration? Like my mind is thinking. So it's like what is something we create big to again get excitement and attention? And what's interesting, those who are last year's Talking Live, Tim Shields spoke on the late night session about dramatic demonstrations that he does dramatically, right? And he's interesting because he was in his past, he would do courses, right? He did courses about photography and things like that from his house. And then he thought, what if I made this more exciting for people? And so what he would do is he would go find a spot. So like the very first one he did was he went to the Grand Canyon, it's the side of the Grand Canyon, and he did his live webinar there. Now it's the same webinar, nothing different other than he's like, I'm taking you guys to the side of the Grand Canyon. It's going to be amazing. And he brought Starlink out there and he did the whole thing. And he actually recorded a course out in the Grand Canyon. And then he did a webinar from there, showing them the stuff and then like sold them the course. They got the course free when they signed for his continuity program. So he's totally doing the Mifke, playing the playbook. But it was really, really cool. I had him share it with everybody. But he said it, but it didn't really click. I was like, that's cool. I wish I was a photographer because I could do that. And he showed how he did it in like Banff, Canada, and he did this other place, like all over the world doing these cool things. But again, I don't know. I'm sure people at home are similar to me. Like, that sounds really cool. I wish I could do that. And I kept saying that. And then he joined the Atlas groups. Then like 3 weeks later, he's here on the stage in Boise and he's showing the whole thing again. I was like, I wish I was a photographer. I could totally do something cool like that. And he said something that got me a little closer to realizing, but I still didn't pay attention. He's like, the key is this. And so this is like for anyone who's taking notes. He said, the key is this. He's like, you have to take your customers to a place that they wish they could go, but they would never go on their own. And I was like, ooh, that's so cool. Took a note. Still didn't drop. They didn't sit in my head. And they looked at me directly. I was sitting right there. They looked at me. He's like, Russell, you know what I'd do if I was you? I'm like, what? He's like, your people would love to go to Dan Kennedy's basement. You always talk about it. They've always heard about it. They can't go there. There's no internet there. He's like, you should bring Starlink to Dan Kennedy's basement and go live from there. And I was like, I had to be handed me on a silver platter before I got it.
Yeah.
But then I got it. And hopefully like from that process, some of you guys like will now get it. But I'm like, now in my head, I'm like, where else could I be doing these things at, right? I was like, we're supposed to go out to West Virginia, which is Napoleon Hill's home. And we were just going to go do a mastermind there. I'm like, I'm so stupid. Like I should be doing it from there. Like last month we were at in Chicago at Earl Nightingale's place and we were in the archives and all this stuff. And I didn't even think about it. Like I should have brought it there. Like it's just like, if you're doing something anyway, it's like whatever you're doing as a business owner, like bring them there, right? Like, what are you doing anyway? And let people experience that journey. That's part of like the intrigue. And that's part of it. Could be another way to look at a hook. It's just a little bit differently. So Dan, we did that. And we ended up by doing that one dramatic demonstration, we signed up more people in the 15-minute window than we had in like 8 months with paid ads through our traditional funnels. It's just like the power of it's insane. It wasn't that hard. It was just like, we had to tell the story. Like the hook's gotta be something interesting enough that people are like, wow, I gotta register for that. I gotta show up for it. A typical webinar, you get, whatever, people register and like 15% show up, right?
Yeah.
For Dan Kennedy's basement, it was like, first off, we had way more registrants because like it was over 10,000 registrants because people are like curious, right? And then we had like 70% show up live. So it's just like, it shifts the whole dynamics. Now you're pitching to more people because you created something different than just like, I'm doing a webinar from my office today,
Yeah.
And now we can evergreen that webinar and show it for the rest of our lives. So anyway, so many fun ideas.
No, I think it's so cool because I really think it's the antidote to like how the world has gotten. I mean, it's more ads have just gotten crazy, And you actually said something at Inner Circle last week that was like, I thought really cool. It was like the final speech you gave, the final day, and you said, yeah, in the past, like 10 years ago, these masterminds were all about ways we could do unique JVs together, but now we're all talking about ads 24/7. How interesting is it that I almost feel like the scale is tilting the other way? And to me, the concept of dramatic demonstration is the antidote to how much ads world has gone nuts. And there's I think there's a skill increase here that's going to be necessary for companies because they're going to have to learn how to get attention without just rushing to pay ads, you know what I mean? Which now they get to go more creative and make some more attention. But it's actually easier, faster sales if you do it right than 8 months worth of ads. You know?
I think it's easier too because I used to think creativity came in like making better ads. That's why we hired the Harmon brothers like 4 times, and they're amazing, insane. But each time it's like $500,000 to make an ad campaign.
Yeah.
Most people can't do that. Instead, it's like I'm gonna go like insert whatever you do. I'm gonna go take these guys to my high school gym where I grew up, and I'm gonna show them me shooting baskets at my high school gym, or so like just something new or it's unique. We can tell a story behind it that's like that becomes interesting and dramatic. Now, I also talk about the very first Funnel Hacking Live when we talked. You requested this to me, like, I want you to show the campaign you did to actually sell the Expert Secrets books. Most people saw the funnel, like here's the funnel of how we launched Expert Secrets, and they thought that's what it was. And it was fun preparing for that because I started going back in time, and I was like, I can't believe how many little mini things we were doing all the way up leading to the big thing. I don't have a list of them all right now, but it was like we had dramatic demonstrations to our affiliates specifically and to our audience, to the people who were like following us. Like there were multiple things all coming together. The ads were dramatic demonstrations. Like, there were so many fun things we did. And I don't know, can you remember, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head a couple of the things we were doing.
Totally. You know what's interesting? Like it was like 13 things that you did.
All unique different things. Yeah.
They were crazy.
I think we're going to show it at the event too. Like, so if you've registered dramaticdemonstrations.com, we're going to show that presentation. So you actually see like the screenshots and the videos of all the different things as they're happening, which would be kind of fun. But anyway.
I don't think people realize that like launching a book or launching a Harmon Brother video or whatever, it's the same thing as launching a product, and really a lot of times the precursor to it. But I mean, I remember it was like 2 days before that book came out, and you sent me a message and you go, dude, we should probably figure out how to put the funnel together because all the marketing energy was on promoting it. There was no funnel yet.
Yeah. That was a little stressful the last 2 days, right?
I had so much caffeine more than
we
I
should
had
have thought about that ahead of time.